Hello and welcome. My name is Peace Mitchell and I'm co-founder of Osmompreneur, the Women's Business School and Women Changing the World Press. Before we begin, I'd like to pay my respects to the traditional owners of the land that I live and work on, the people of Mamu country in North Queensland. And I'd also like to acknowledge and pay my respects to traditional owners and elders, past and present, right across Australia and the Torres Strait. Well, I'm so excited today to be launching our latest book, Purpose and Passion. And it is my honor to be chatting with one of my fellow co-authors, Sarah Macrae. Please join me, Sarah.
Hi, Peace. How are you?
I'm really, really good. So, Sarah, for people who haven't met you before, I would love you to tell us a bit about you and the work that you do.
Okay, so I'm a mum of two girls, big gap between the two. I'm 16 years, and my youngest is she's got challenging behaviours and ASD, so that's been a very big learning curve. I've been 30 years nearly in the industry for disabilities, and being a parent to a child with disabilities is just a whole different ball game. Things that I am great at work, I just total opposite, struggle at home because of that emotional attachment. But we find joy and laughter in most things. If you don't laugh, you cry. You've got to have humour. So I've built a model for a disability activity hub and service, which we ranged from New South Wales in Central Coast up through Hunter region down into Sydney. And I've built an actual model where we've refurbished an activity hub, but it's like a home. And it's the fun house. And we're there for the, guys that struggle in real more complex cases. And we've created a community where I've given them that platform and that environment. They feel safe to grow and they've got a voice. And now it's just the sky's the limit for some of them. And it's just, it keeps you going every day. As hard as it gets, all the red tape and being an NDIS provider is quite challenging, especially in the environment. You've got to become a government guru and politician all in one, and a carer. So I've learned a lot. I've faced a lot of challenges, but my passion is I can't imagine myself doing anything else. And it's my happy place too.
Yeah, it sounds like an incredible.
They'll see me escape the office. I'll be dressing up and hiding in with them, having a good old disco time or something, away from the computer, diverting. But yeah, it's really given me that something to put everything into, that fire in your belly. So I was a young mum. I struggled at school. I left home. I was the rat bag teenager, typical in the 80s. Probably diagnosed different now if I was here in this day and age, but hence why I could probably wear 500 hats and get through the stress and the load of everything. But I always wanted to. I started at Pete Island, and that's when I walked into a world I never knew existed. Being grown up in Southern Highlands, I was from the country, pretty naive to what's out there, and I just found my place. It was. And I wanted to take them all home and escape with them. And I used to say, some of them I've got now that I care for 27 years later. And I used to say to them, don't worry, boys, we're going to get out of here. I'll take you and have some fun. And that's when I started with the community transition program. And I loved that because I could take them out for all their first experiences of what was out there in the world. And now I've built a hub, and it's a centre. It's the centre, it's the epicenter of like our little tribe, our community. And we've all got a story, and we've all come from, it's funny. I've got a great team. And it is, it's a little family.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Now your title for your chapter is like a scene out of Faulty Towers or the Truman Show. Can you tell us a bit about what that chapter title means?
Yeah, well, I grew up in a pretty non-conventional setting. I had typical hippie parents, eldest of four. So, you know, I was always the instigator and always the troublemaker. So, and then mum worked, dad got in the door, mum walked out the door. That's how they did. We didn't have much money, but mum and dad always made sure we were in sports, and you know, we were all pretty crazy kids. And then they made a leap of faith and they moved us from our country town, which I was devastated because I had all my friends being 14, end of the world. And we bought a shop, and mum and dad thought that we'd have the family run the shop. So that's where Faulty Towers comes into it, because dad was a boilermaker and worked in the mines. Mum worked in restaurants, so she knew what she was doing, but us four kids didn't have a clue. And we had some pretty good fights. So I'm sure the customers would think, what is going on in here? So that was the Faulty Towers. And then, yeah, so that's when my first opening was to business and going out there and on a limb like dad and mum did and put everything up and got the shop. But mum and dad ended up divorcing, and then I ran the shop while dad went to work. And I'd say I was all right at it, but I was a teenager, so I look back now and I'm horrified because I think, how did dad do that? Well, trust me, but he did. It taught me a lot. It taught me a lot of resilience, especially coming from the country and moving to Dangar Island, where I'd be stuck on mud flaps because I'd have to drive dad on the boat to the station at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I couldn't get back out because I was not river savvy or boat savvy. And yeah, I got through that and I survived. And then I fell pregnant when I was 17. And I started working at Pete Island when my little one was only 1. And then that's when I stayed there and worked my way up through there in every industry of the Pete Island that had operations. I had to go. I was like that, always wanted to try everything. And then I ended in nursing admin, which that's really gave me the ground for disabilities and how to run service and provide a good service and all the back end stuff that I didn't see before because I was out there on the floor. So, and I've worked as a support worker. So I always thought I've had some really hairy bosses and I've been sacked, and I was like, oh, I would not do it this way and they deserve better and I'm going to open my own. And I sat in my garage just before COVID and said to my best mate, she laughed at me. I said, you watch, I'm going to open my own day program. I'm going to build it. I'm going to own my own, and I'm not working for all these people anymore. I'm over it. I'm over scraping the bucket for bills and stressing. Like I'm doing it. And I wrote it all down. I put it in a bit of paper, and 5 years later, I was doing it. And she still sits there and laughs at me. She goes, she works for me now. So, yeah, and that's just how it evolved, and it just evolved so naturally. So, and every day I just go, nah, what else would I be doing? Like, I can't see myself anywhere else.
It's so incredible. I really loved reading your journey in your chapter, you know, from your childhood growing up and helping run that shop 7 days a week with your parents. And then, you know, you said, I transitioned into my adult life as a wild 18-year-old mum. You know, so many challenges that you faced and overcome. But what I really loved was when you said, my vision was to create a welcoming space offering more than just services. I wanted to build a community hub that fostered support and opportunity for those who'd been marginalized by society. Can you tell us more about this vision that you had for the business you've created?
I think from me, I suffered childhood trauma, sexual abuse from a young age. So I was always on the outer, and I struggled a lot growing up. And I had a lot of hurt and pain that I didn't realize I had till I was older. And when I become a mum, yeah, I was a wild teenage mum, and I had my mum come in, and I was so hurt and affected by all my childhood trauma that it didn't come out until I had a baby. And that's when my world fell apart. She cried, I cried. I thought she'd be a puppy and just get on and start drinking. And it wasn't like that at all. And it was far from what you think. And I was just this little girl all of a sudden. For the first time, I felt like a little girl. And I was only a kid. And I didn't know how to deal. So, and then I've seen all the others struggle, and then being, in hospitals and dealing with mental health and trauma, and you see it all around. And I always wanted to help everybody. Like, I'd bring this stray dog home from the supermarket, mum and dad would be like, oh, not again. Like, or the kids from school, I was always like that, always have been. So I wanted, and I seen all our guys when we left Pete Island, nobody would take them in because they didn't fit into the conventional box. And I was like, no, this is wrong. This is so wrong. Like, and I just knew like that was something had to happen, something had to change. And by fate and instance and on my path, that's where I found my feet, and I really started to grow because my daughter grew up with me, my eldest, and she's a powerhouse, as I say in my book. I look up to her. I idolise her strength, everything I put her through, or the hurt I've caused, and she's now a powerhouse in the disability industry herself, and she's got the heart and soul just like me, but she's better, 20 times better at her age than I was at her age. And I'm proud of that because she got through all that and she's done really well. So I really wanted to make sure that there was somewhere for us that were the unmarginalised, that we had a place where we belonged and we were heard and we were all equal. Like, I'm their boss, but I'm not. I'll get in there and help, and I'll be on the mop or the bins, or because we're a team. And I hated that segregation or that status. Even at school, I was the crooked teeth, fatty, teased, and all the popular hot girls would get the boyfriends. And Dad would always say, that we like comfort and don't worry, sweet. And, you always see me, I struggled a lot. So, yeah, I grew up with that pain, I suppose, and that trauma where I learnt to just then put it into something good, because I was sick of hurting and I was sick of letting everybody down, and I was sick of hurting people around me because it wasn't me. That's not who I was. So I had to change it, and that's when I put it into that, because I thought, someone said to me one day, if you can twist it around and put it into something positive, take the negative into a positive, and you drive that train that you've got right now into a positive way, like sky's the limit. And they were right. I'm glad I took that leap and that bit of advice in life. So just now I watch my daughter and I fight for my youngest stuck in the system. I think all these years later we're still in the same space,
And yet here you are making change. What you have created is incredible, and you had that vision for an inclusive space where everybody would feel welcome, and that's what you've created. And this is how we change the world, by people like you seeing a vision for how things can be better and then taking action on that. So
you can't give up. You can't give up. I say to my team sometimes when they get defeated, I said, you know what, you can win the battle, but you got to keep trying to win the war. Like, as long as we're standing here and we're still breathing, we get up, take another step tomorrow, then we're winning. We're still in. So, and I'm doing it for my daughter too, my youngest now. That's my next drive, because that's hot. It's a whole new world that I'm going through there, and I'm fighting for her and every other kid out there for the same rights, because I can see what good happens when you do have that inclusive environment, and they are with everybody. They're not put to the side or separated, because it's like, no, let's deal with what's causing their emotion, what's causing the behavior, what extra supports do they need, because it comes from somewhere. It's not just a behavior.
Exactly.
It's the tools, the learning tools too. Like school, I failed every maths test, English, never passed an exam. And now I have a company with 45 employees, financials. I read legislation and policies, procedures, and I've got 70 clients. And I'm just like, I go, if only my teachers could see me now and say, okay, well, and I was not academic at all, but with the right tools and the right learning environment and the interest, you can learn and do anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. I've really enjoyed reading your chapter and learning more about your story. And I've really enjoyed chatting with you today as well. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Peace.
Oh, my pleasure. Well, thanks for everybody for tuning in today. If you haven't got your copy of Purpose and Passion, you can grab it at wcwpress.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you all again soon. Bye.